Have you ever had that moment where you look at the picture of a previous costume that you made and tears are streaming down your face as you're thinking, I could have done better with that? Well, I sure have, and I'm right there with you. So, that's why I'm making today's video. See, I made a LARP costume about a year ago for an NPC that I was gonna play. And while I was very happy with it at the time, now looking back on it, I'm thinking, I could just do more with that. And that's exactly what I'm planning to do. Since right now, I'll be playing the character as a player, not an NPC anymore, so I wanted to spice things up for the costume. So in today's video, we're going to take the basic costume that I had and turn it into a new and improved version of itself. Before we get into it though, the footage of me making the costume and making the improvements was filmed some time ago, so any differences in appearance is because of that. Now, I already improved this costume into a next version of itself by making a whole different top area. I made another top, I made a necklace and a sleeve for it already, but I kind of disregarded the bottom part of the outfit. So that's mostly what we'll be focusing on in this improvement of the outfit. We'll be making the bottom part and we'll be adding a lot more detail to just give it a bit more personality and flavor. Now, first thing we're gonna do, which I wanted to start off with because it's easy, is make a kind of phone case cover. I normally don't take my phone in game with me at LARPs, but this time I had to, so I wanted it to be in my bag and blend in a little bit more. So I wanted to make a cover that made it look like my phone was a little book. First up, I started out by measuring out and cutting all of the different pieces that I would need from 5mm EVA foam. Once I was sure the phone would fit, I also cut out the cover for it in 2mm EVA foam. Afterwards, I cut some grooves into one part to make it look like a book with different pages. And then it was up to using my handy dandy glue gun to piece together the main frame of this book and put in the phone case that would hold my phone. Checking once more to see if it fits, and then it's on to cutting out the piece where my camera would show in the cover, because then I could still use my camera and take photos if I wanted to while it was in the book. Next up, I'm putting some primer all over the inside of the book. And it's time to give a little bit of kisses to Blackie before moving on to painting the inside of the book white to simulate it being paper. After it was white, I put some black on there and used a little tissue paper to put some shading on there and make sure that the black only stayed within the grooves that I had previously cut. Then it was on to priming the entire inside of the book before going on to the actual painting. I used some brown powder and dabbed it on there with a tissue paper to kind of simulate a letter look for the book, which worked out great actually. Then I also put the same brown powder on the inside of the book to just shade it a little bit, make it look a little bit more aged. And once I knew it all fit and looked nice the way I wanted it to, I spray painted the last top coat on there and I close it with a small letter cord. So now it's on to the next part of the costume that we're gonna make. I have this top, and it's like a red velvet top that I once made, and I have been wearing from this character, but I haven't been the biggest fan of the pants that I've been wearing from them. So I'm going to attempt to make like a double split skirt out of the same material as this velvet to kind of make it seem like one whole. I'm gonna be recycling some pants for that and using the elastic band of it, and I hope it'll turn out decent because I love to like use this phase and to layer on some necklaces, and we'll see what we can make. I still have enough velvet, I think, to make like the double skirt, and I hope by reusing the pants it's gonna be a little bit more easy because the velvet is not stretchy. That's why I'm hoping that if I use an elastic band, it'll be easier. So the next part is making that skirt. So here I'm just measuring the pants that I was going to use the elastic band of, and then I also measured how long I wanted it to lay and how big each piece had to be to cover the area that I wanted it to cover. Once I knew the measurements, it was just on to cutting the fabric. I used a very basic method for this skirt since it didn't need to float that much, and because it was going to be split into two parts, a front and then a back piece, I just cut some rectangle strips out of the leftover velvet that I still had, and I was going to adjust it from there. Now just trying it on to see if it's enough fabric and if it falls the way I want it to. And then it's on to cutting off the elastic band of the pants that I was going to reuse. and putting the fabric onto the elastic band to see if it would work. And it did work, so I pinned down all of the fabric around the elastic band to try it on, see how it would fit before I actually sewed it shut. I also noticed that I needed a little bit of overlap between the fabrics, so that's what I adjusted back there. I made sure that the back part overlapped a little bit with the front part.
So now that we've tried it all on, it looks good, we've cut it the right way, it's time to sew all the edges shut, and then let's see the finished result.
And with the fabric sewn onto the elastic band, it was time to move on to the next part of the costume, which was painting the cape that I had. I had previously sketched out a rough design of what I wanted to do. I basically freehanded it from there, took my golden textile paint, and just took my time to see if the design I made was working on the cape. Also, I'll tell you that this is a very satisfying and relaxing thing to do because you're just minding your own, painting on these symbols and seeing if it works. I did most of the painting the first night, but then I had to let the back dry, so I did the front of the cape the next morning. I just copied the same design I used on the back, more or less, and then I also painted around the hood area. I quickly made the shorts that I wanted to by just cutting some old pair of leggings that I had lying around. I didn't even sew them shut because it wasn't going to be that visible, so that's an easy way to make some shorts for the costume.
Why, hello. Good morning. It is the third day of building this costume. I got started on some small things last night, and I actually finished a bunch of things, which I'm going to show you right now. First off, I finished the cape that I wanted to basically paint. I had a very basic black one, and I wanted to spice it up a little bit, which I did by painting on it. Let me show you. Here it is. And then we got the back as well. And I painted on this, like, it was supposed to be like a bit celestial feeling. It is for a spirit priestess after all. So I'm going to try that on in a minute. But I finished painting that with some textile paint. Next up, I got a little lamp, which I want to spice up and make a bit more medieval to take it in game with me because I wasn't happy about the lamp that I had. And then lastly, I cut up some leggings that I had to make shorts to go underneath the skirt that I made because I didn't have any of them. So just cut these up. I'm going to show you in a minute what it looks like. And then the last thing is the skirt that we've been making. I still need to figure out what I want to do with the bottom of it. I right now put it in like a point, but I don't think I like it. So I'm going to try it on, see what works best. If I leave it flat at the bottom or if I make a little pointed edge to it. We'll see, but that is basically what I want to finish right now. Then it's basically on to accessories. So if I want to make some gloves, I still can. I still need to style my wig. So there's still a lot of things I can do, but it'll just depend on the time I have. We're still 2 weeks away. So I'm not used to crafting this early on. I'm used to keeping things last minute and then crafting it then. So we still have a lot of time. We're just going to see what we want to do. I do feel like I like the skirt and the top combo. I think it'll look good, but I want to just spice things up because it's a little bland for me right now. So we'll see whatever we come up with that. Let's go. Okay, so we're trying on the skirt. I don't like how it looks right now. I think I'm going to take out the pointed end and I'm going to make it more narrow here on top because I don't need the coverage since I'm wearing my shorts underneath. So we're going to make it slimmer here at the top and then let it dangle down and see how it looks like that. I think it'll be better and then we'll see what it looks like at that point.
And here I'm just taking in some of the sides of the skirt, making it a little bit smaller the way I wanted it to.
Hello there, fellas. It's a new day. The skirt is finished, So right now, I think I'm gonna go on to making some decorations and seeing how this all comes together. I'm kind of wearing what it would look like right now. I'm wearing the entire outfit as is. I have a sleeve that I put onto one of my arms. And I basically, from the previous time I wore this costume, I have a bunch of these chains with little beads on them. I'm thinking that I will be adding these beads to each of my legs so that I can break it up a little bit, add a little bit of accessories. So this is what it would look like. And I'm thinking of adding those to both of my legs to break it up, add a little bit of a little something something. And then we'll see. I'm pretty happy with how it's looking so far. I think it's with the boots and the skirt, it's all a pretty good look so far. But we can make it even better, and I'm gonna. Okay, so next up, we'll be decorating our arm piece. I normally just wear this as is, but I want to try to paint the same symbols on here as I did on the cape, because then it'll match and it'll just add a little extra. So I'm gonna do that now.
Again, I can't recommend painting freehand enough to you all. It's just so satisfying and relaxing to see what fits and try some things out. It's definitely also scary because you don't have a fixed pattern, but hey, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then that same evening, I started out on the chains that I wanted to make to hang underneath my skirts on my shorts. This was a very tedious task because I didn't know what combination of beads I would be using, so I was testing it as I went along and I had to take them off multiple times to start again. But eventually, I did come up with a design that I really liked.
And then we're the next night. I finished the chains that I want to hang from my short. I made them a different way the first time. I didn't like it at all, so I completely remade them. And now I'm satisfied with them. I'm going to attach them to my shorts with little fabric hoops so that they are secured on there. And then I would like to finish making an in-game lamp and try to make this look a little bit more like a lantern so that it doesn't look as modern. So those are two things we're going to do tonight. We'll see if it works out.
For the attachment of the beaded chains to the short, I just cut out some basic strips of fabric and I sewed them shut, then sewed them directly onto my short in a little hoop so that the metal attachments could just fit into it and not move around too much when I was wearing the costume.
Okay, I just spent the entire night crafting to only find out that I did not like the way I was going with the lamp. I did not like the designs I was trying out and it just wasn't working for me. So instead of racking my brain on that one, I'm gonna put that one aside for now and focus on another part of the project, which is that I wanted to make an in-game bag as well. I have this one, I've been using it for ages. It's just a basic brown fabric one, but I want to make another one that kind of fits the outfit a little bit more. So I still have a bunch of fake brown leather lying around and I want to try to just recreate this kind of messenger bag in this material, maybe add some decorations to it, we'll see. But that's what we'll focus on instead, is making an in-game bag now, and we'll revisit the lamp idea at some point.
For the bag, this was probably the easiest part of the entire costume because I just used that same messenger bag I had as a template. I just laid it flat on the fabric and cut out the same shape as the bag that I already had. Once I folded it, checked, and was happy with the size, I just sewed around the edges to make them clean and then sewed the back shut so that when I turned it inside out, it was now secured and already looking like an actual bag.
And so with a little bit of sewing, we got our base ready. And then I have this cord that I made out of the same fabric. We just need to attach it to the sides of the bag and then we're all done with the bag. Unless we want to decorate it even more, but that's a decision for later.
And And then I got started on the lantern. I decided I wanted a bit more of a rounded lantern shape, so I started out by cutting some very thick circles of foam to give it the bulk on the bottom and the top that I needed. Then once I was happy with the shape, I used some contact cement to glue those pieces together because that's honestly the best glue to use for foam. It's a glue that you put on both sides and you have to let it dry completely before you attach both. But once you attach them, they are stuck there. And while I was outside, wearing a face mask, mind you, I dremeled around the edges to already make the shape a little bit rounder the way I wanted it to. Another layer of contact cement to attach the last pieces together and a bit more dremeling, and then I was finished. And then it was on to heat sealing the foam. I used a heat gun to briefly go over the foam because once foam is heat sealed, it takes up way less primer and it holds its shape way better. Then I cut out a piece of the black plastic film that I had to cover the lantern to make it look a little bit more old and aged. And I have to admit that the neatest way I thought of to attach this to the lantern to not make it permanent was just a piece of translucent tape. That's it. That's all I used to just attach the plastic film to the lantern. Then I primed all of the pieces with just some regular black primer again. And then once those pieces had dried, it was on to the Worbla parts of the lantern. I first cut out some strips of Worbla and I rolled them into these little long sausages that I was gonna use to wrap around certain parts of the lantern. Then once I had all of these stringy parts that I needed, I heated them up again and I wrapped them around the wooden sticks that I was going to use around the side of the lantern. Again, very easy process of just heating it up and then rolling it around and shaping it onto the wooden rod. And Worbla cools down very fast, so it held its shape on its own. I also used the same method for the handle of the lantern. And then I took a last big chunk of Worbla to cover the top part of the lantern, which you will notice I heated it up a little bit too much because it stuck to the table underneath, but luckily I could mold it so that you didn't really see.
Hello, and welcome to another segment of Astrid was crafting very late last night, and now it's the next day. Yeah! I was up very late last night, and I was busy making my little lantern. I'm happy with the progress that I made. I still need to do some finishing touches and paint it mostly today. Also, I saw that the contact cement that I used to attach the upper part is kind of coming loose. So we're gonna fix that with some not so great solutions because I just want to get this finished at this point because I've been crafting a lot of days on this costume. So, gonna finish this lantern, make it pretty, and then also I tested out like this pattern that I want to do on the skirt because I thought the skirt was a little bland, so we're gonna probably paint that pattern onto the skirt as well. Other than that, I want to paint my bag and I need to fix some of the beaded chains that I made, but other than that, we're pretty much on schedule and it's mostly detail work from now. I still have 2 days to go to finish all of my stuff. We'll see how much I can still fit in those 2 days, but I'm pretty happy with where the costume is so far. So let's get cracking on that lantern.
And of course, to attach the top part, what better than a little bit of trusty hot glue? Yes, I did use hot glue to attach the top again, but it worked out great, so I have no regrets. And then I added some more smaller details with Worbla and heated up the bottom and the top Worbla to attach the wooden toothpick decorations that I had made so that they would go all around the edges of my lantern. I really liked how this turned out, by the way. It was trial and error, but it looked so good in the end. And then I just primed the whole thing with some black primer.
Alright, and now that we've put 2 layers of primer on here, let's take it outside to put some rub and buff on it and make it golden.
I started out just using my fingers for rub and buff, but I quickly found out that using a brush was just way easier, so I then used the brush to apply the rub and buff to all of the primed Worbla pieces around the lantern. and I immediately went into painting my bag. I wanted to decorate it a little bit more, and I thought, hey, why don't I just use the same kind of pattern that I used on the cape and the sleeve onto this bag. So I again had no real plan here, just went in with the same kind of designs as the cape, and I figured out a design that I thought would work on the bag. And for the last part of the costume, I went on to painting the sides of the skirt. Again, this was no fixed design. I just figured out what I thought looked good and what didn't from my test previously, and I went in with some golden textile paint all around the edges of the skirt. I really think this looked great, and I love the flowing design that we ended up with. Also, I didn't catch that part on camera, but don't forget to heat seal your textile paint when you put it on your fabric. The easiest way to heat seal your textile paint is to put your fabric onto an ironing board, put a kitchen towel on top of your textile paint, and then take your iron and just go over it a few times until you feel that it is slightly less crusty. After that, you can just put your textile into the washer without a problem, but if you don't heat seal your textile paint, things might run out and smudge, so be wary of that. And with the painting of the skirt now finished, there was only one thing left to do, which is a reveal of the new and improved costume. Thank you so much for going through the process with me and sticking through to the end of this video. Now there are a lot of trial and error things in making this costume and things that I might do differently in the future. So I want to do a quick sit down and just talk about my experience and the things I learned making this costume. First of all, I know we all love to always recycle all the scraps of fabric that we have, and I always tend to do that, but I really just had too little fabric for the skirt. In the future, I need to give myself a little bit more room because right now I really wanted to use the same kind of velvet that I did for the top, which meant that I only had a limited amount of fabric to work with, and I think it looks fine, but I would have liked it to be a little bit more flowy maybe. Also, when I was making the beaded change to put underneath my skirt, I tried to make it with a different type of rope. I tried to make it with nylon cord, which I think could work fine, but the mechanism that I used to open and close it just kept getting stuck on it, which just made the whole chain break and the rope split into two. In the future, I would just use some sturdier rope to make those chains with because I don't want them getting caught in a metal mechanism and then just snapping. All in all, with these kinds of costume builds, it's just trial and error. You'll be trying out a lot of things that you think might work, but it ends up not working at all or not looking good. So don't be discouraged to just try some things out. I know that in the future for me, I will certainly make more improvements in this outfit even. I maybe want to improve the boots that I use for the costume, even make another cape because I wasn't quite happy with the cape I had this time. I didn't really wear it a whole lot. I also got my own LARP staff for this costume, which I really want to decorate now, and I also want to add maybe some foam skulls throughout the outfit, but that's again something I've never tried before, so we'll have to see if I eventually get to it. Thank you so much for sticking through this video with me. I appreciate all of your support. I had a great time crafting this costume, and I hope you maybe learned a little bit alongside me. If you want to see a little bit more of this costume, be sure to stick around because the next video I'll be releasing is all about the experience I had at the LARP where I wore the costume. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. And until then, stay safe and I'll see you later.